If I told you the exact date you were going to die, you'd probably retire tomorrow, but you can't. And that's the tension at the heart of every retirement decision. Do you live cautiously or boldly? For almost 2 decades, I've helped thousands of South Africans, both here and abroad, plan and live their retirements with clarity and confidence. I've worked with some of the country's wealthiest families, listed company CEOs, and everyday retirees just like you. My passion for financial planning comes from a deeply personal place. When I was 16 years old, my father passed away, and I watched my mother and both my grandmothers lose their entire life savings because of poor investment and retirement advice. That experience shaped my life, and it's why I've dedicated my career to protecting families from those same mistakes. Along the way, I completed a Master's in Financial Planning in Australia to learn world-class best practices. In 2019, I was named the FBI South African Financial Planner of the Year, and in 2023, Family Wealth Custodians was awarded the Best Advisor Firm under 3 years by International Advisor. And in 2024, Citywire recognized me as one of South Africa's top 50 independent financial advisors. Today, I'm giving you the exact Family Wealth Retirement Master Plan, the same 5-step blueprint our clients pay tens of thousands of rands for, completely free. So imagine you've just paid me 18,000 Rand for this framework. How would you show up for the next 20 minutes? Stay focused, because what follows could change the way you retire. Before we dive in, please remember this video is for educational purposes only. It doesn't constitute personal financial advice. Everyone's circumstance is unique, so always consult a certified financial planner before making any big decisions. Now that you know who I am and why this work means so much to me, let's talk about what you're going to learn today. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm going to take you through the exact 5-step framework that we use at Family Wealth Custodians to help retirees move from anxious and uncertainty to calm, confident, and in control. This isn't theory. It's the same process we use with real families across South Africa to structure, protect, and grow their wealth for decades to come. So grab a notebook, get comfortable, and imagine this is your personal retirement strategy session. To make this exercise more real, I want to walk through a real case study of clients of mine. Let's call them John and Sally. Now, John and Sally's numbers may look different to yours, but the process we followed applies whether you've got 5, 10, or 50 million to retire with. It's a framework you can copy and use for yourself. And if, like John and Sally, you'd like some help doing this, there's a link in the description below where you can reach out and book an initial call complimentary with one of my team members. When I first met John and Sally, they were both 59 years old. Their youngest daughter had just finished university, which forced them to reflect on their lives. They felt like they'd blinked and suddenly they arrived at 60. After decades focused on their careers and raising their children, now they wanted to make the most of the years ahead. They wanted to retire as soon as possible, and their goal was to spend the first couple of years in retirement traveling all through South Africa in a camper van. So here's what their combined balance sheet looked like. Their pension and provident funds was approximately 6.8 million Rand. He had an old retirement annuity of approximately 2.2 million Rand. They had a fixed deposit of more or less 4 million Rand and a money market account of also about 4 million Rand. Their home was paid off and it was worth about 5 million Rand. But remember, your house, the house that you live in, is a lifestyle asset and it doesn't form part of the planning process because you'll always need a place to live. And then they also had some rental properties, generating a monthly net income of about 30,000 Rand per month. Their very first question to me was, if we retire today, how much can we spend and how long will our money last? But here's the truth. Asking for a number without knowing what kind of life you want to live is absolutely meaningless. Retirement isn't about maximizing a rand amount. It's about aligning your dreams and goals with your financial position. Here's the reality. Retirement gives you incredible freedom, but it also demands focus. You have a finite amount of money and a finite amount of time. So you need to decide, What will give you the most fulfillment? The clearer you are about your priorities, the more confident you'll be in the numbers. Whether it's an income of R1 million a year or 360,000 Rand a year, if it's aligned with your values, you'll feel at peace. And once you've got that clarity, it's much easier to ignore the headlines and enjoy your retirement without guilt. So the very first question in our retirement master plan is this: how much income do you need in retirement? And how do you draw this income the most cost-effective, sustainable, and tax-efficient way? To answer that, I asked John and Sally to do a budget exercise. Not just writing down numbers, but separating essentials from non-essentials. Essentials are the things you won't compromise on. For John and Sally, that included their travels, camping, exploring, and making memories. At Family Wealth Custodians, we use what we call the Dynamic Retirement Income Plan. It recognizes that your spending changes over time, and it helps you enjoy your money in the active years while still protecting your long-term security. We divide retirement into 3 phases. The first phase we call the go-go years or early retirement. This is normally the first 10 to 15 years. You spend the most year on travel, hobbies, and lifestyle. The next phase we call the slow-go years or middle retirement. This is normally the next 8 to 10 years, where travel starts slowing down, lifestyle spending eases, but you still want to enjoy life. The final phase is what we call the no-go years or late retirement. This is normally from your middle 80s onwards. Less lifestyle spending, but much higher medical costs. This framework makes sure that you enjoy your money while you're healthy, but still have enough set aside for later life care. When we build budgets, we always start from the bottom up, starting with medical costs. This is non-negotiable, lifelong, and running at approximately 10 to 12% inflation in South Africa. Basic living costs, this is things like housing, groceries, transport, and insurance. The official inflation rate for this is sitting at about 3.8% according to the national government. But if we look at the long-term average, it's much closer to 5 to 7% inflation. The third thing we look at is discretionary spending, which includes travel, leisure, hobbies. This is normally very heavy in the early years, where you're spending most of your time enjoying the things that you worked so hard for, but it eases up later in life. Through this exercise, John and Sally realized that their must-have spending was approximately 35,000 Rand a month, covering both their basic and medical costs. But numbers weren't the full picture. When we zoomed out and looked at their goals, John and Sally loved the outdoors. They wanted long trips, camping in the Drakensberg Mountains, a few months in Namibia, but they also wanted to eventually end up in the Western Cape, where they would find a place to settle. And this is key. Financial life planning isn't a one-time exercise. It's an ongoing process. It's about finding the balance between time and money and adjusting as life changes. To make their plan real, we asked 360-degree questions like, what does your ideal year in retirement look like? How much time for hobbies and travel? Budget travel or more comfortable trips? Will you support your children any further? What about later life care? And what budget should we plan for? These were the conversations they had never had before. After 2 hours together, here's what their plan looked like. For the go-go years, we budgeted approximately 65,000 Rand per month, but this was only after their travels finished. For the slow-go years, we budgeted 55,000 Rand a month, and for their no-go years, we looked at 35,000 Rand per month. Of course, all of these amounts are in today's terms and they need to be adjusted for inflation and medical inflation. Now, with a clearer picture, we could run financial models. We started with a base case scenario where at an assumed long-term return rate of 9%, their retirement was approximately 95% funded. And then we looked at different possibilities. For instance, adjusting lifestyle and travel budgets, factoring in higher costs of frail care later in life, which in South Africa can exceed 30,000 Rand per month in today's terms for private facilities. And we also explored different retirement income tax strategies, such as maybe considering Section 10C, disallowed contributions to a retirement annuity, where over the years John and Sally had contributed more than SARS allowed as a deduction. Those disallowed contributions don't just disappear, they sit in the background and can later be drawn out completely tax-free. This creates a hidden buffer or tax-free income in retirement. Next, we looked at structures like offshore tax wrappers, which could be a sinking fund or an endowment. By placing part of their discretionary savings into an offshore tax wrapper invested in roll-up funds, John and Sally gained exposure to global markets while also benefiting from a tax-efficient structure. Inside a tax wrapper, capital gains are taxed at a flat 12%, and when you use roll-up funds, the income is also capitalized and taxed at 12%. This can often be significantly lower than an individual's normal marginal tax rate. Next, we also looked at combining tax-free savings and tax-free savings accounts. Although this might be a small number, over time this can grow to be a sizable portion of your portfolio and might create a year or two's tax-free income in retirement. In John and Sally's case, just by utilizing these basic retirement tax strategies, we were able to project hundreds of thousands of rands in tax savings over their retirement. Our models indicated that at the same assumed long-term rate of return of 9%, their retirement was now fully funded, and with proper planning and regular reviews, they most likely would never run out of money. But it's important to adjust your plans as circumstances change. If you would like to dive deeper into the topic surrounding taxes in retirement, we actually created a dedicated video on this subject. You'll find the link in the description below. Their results showed a high probability of success, but also highlighted the importance of flexibility, tax planning, and proper cash flow management in retirement. This brings us to our next core question that we strive to answer in the Retirement Master Plan. How do we achieve the best possible returns without taking unnecessary risk? When we looked at John and Sally's portfolio, one major issue stood out. Most of their money was sitting in conservative assets like cash and fixed income. While that feels safe, it doesn't keep up with inflation, and over time it risks quietly eroding your purchasing power. After conducting a detailed risk tolerance analysis, we determined that John and Sally were both moderate investors, meaning they understood that investment markets move in different cycles, up and down. They want reasonable, real, after-inflation growth, but not wild swings in their portfolio. They're comfortable with taking calculated risks to maximize their long-term growth. Their portfolio should fall less than the market in tough times, but still deliver stable growth over the long term. And that's where we introduce one of the most effective frameworks for retirees, and we call this the three-bucket strategy. The three-bucket strategy is a simple yet powerful way to structure retirement assets. It separates investments into three buckets, each aligned with a different time horizon. This helps retirees achieve a balance between short-term income stability and longer-term growth, without being forced into panic selling when the markets dip. In bucket 1, you'll find our short-term income assets. This is normally for the first 2 to 5 years of retirement. Here, John and Sally allocated approximately 3 million rand, invested conservatively in money market funds, income funds, or short-term bonds. Here we prioritize capital preservation and liquidity. This ensures that John and Sally can draw their income for the next couple of years without worrying about market volatility. By having 3 to 5 years of income ring-fenced, John and Sally never needs to sell equities during a downturn, giving the growth assets in the other buckets time to recover. Bucket 2 is the medium-term growth bucket for the next 5 years or so. John and Sally allocated approximately 7 million rand here. Typically, this will be invested into balanced funds or multi-asset strategies, positioned to benefit from market growth while not being overly aggressive. This bucket is designed to replenish bucket 1 when it runs out. This allows the investment to compound steadily while protecting against unnecessary downside risks. Bucket 3 is our long-term growth bucket, normally invested for 10 years plus. This is where John and Sally's remaining assets were invested. Here we invest into growth assets like equity portfolios and offshore global funds. This could be passive funds, ETFs, or active managers. Here we have a long-term horizon, looking at more than 10 years. That allows us to ride out different market cycles. It also protects against inflation and ensures that financial sustainability over the long years. The benefits of the three-bucket strategy. First, we look at risk management. It reduces the chances of selling growth assets at the wrong time. It provides income clarity. John and Sally knows exactly where the income will come from for the next couple of years, year by year. It also provides flexibility and can be adjusted as markets move up and down, and as John and Sally's needs change. It also provides tax efficiency. Each bucket can be structured with the right vehicles, like disallowed RA contributions, offshore endowments, or tax-free savings accounts. In John and Sally's case, this strategy highlighted the need for a more balanced portfolio with proper diversification. It is super important to remember that this strategy is unique to their situation. Your own asset allocation should be aligned with your unique risk profile and goals. That brings us to our third core question in the retirement master plan. How can we optimize investments while reducing cost and complexity? When we reviewed John and Sally's portfolio, two issues stood out immediately. They had multiple accounts scattered across different platforms, making it difficult to manage and track performance. Furthermore, John's existing retirement annuity carried an effective annual cost, an EAC, of approximately 4.1%. To put that into perspective, on a 2.2 million rand portfolio, that's approximately 90,000 rand a year in costs, before even earning 1 cent in return. Over 10 years, those fees could easily erode millions from his wealth. Our first recommendation was to consolidate John and Sally's portfolio onto one single linked investment service provider, or LISP. Why, you ask? Because consolidation brings several key benefits. First of all, transparency. One clear dashboard to view all investment, performances, and fees. Lower costs, since all of these platforms work on a sliding scale. So the larger your portfolio on one platform, the lower your overall expense as a percentage of your portfolio. Furthermore, efficiency. It's easier to implement tax strategies, rebalance your portfolio, and manage drawdowns because you're doing it on one single platform. And third, reduced complexity. It simplifies estate planning and makes it easier for heirs to manage it later. And then finally, better control. A single platform allows for smarter cash flow planning and smoother integration with retirement income strategies. At Family Wealth Custodians, we use highly regulated, trusted platforms such as Allan Gray, 91, and a couple of selected others, ensuring both safety and efficiency. Once that structure is simplified, the next step is to optimize the fund selection. At Family Wealth Custodians, we follow what we call a core satellite approach. The core of the portfolio will be invested in low-cost, broad passive investments that form the backbone of the portfolio. They provide market-level growth, stability, and cost-effectiveness, while the satellite holdings are carefully selected, high-conviction, active managers that provide enhanced return and specific diversification. This combination gives clients the best of both worlds, the efficiency and low cost of passive investing with the potential for enhanced returns or risk reduction when you use targeted active strategies. Finally, it's important to address advice fees. Every client is unique. Some want a long-term, ongoing relationship with their financial planner, with regular reviews, updates, and guidance. Others prefer a fee-for-service model, paying only when advice or a specific report is needed. There is no one right answer. The key is that if you choose to work with a financial advisor, make sure they have a clearly defined value proposition. You should know exactly what you are paying for and what value they are adding to your portfolio. In John and Sally's case, consolidating their portfolio, restructuring their fees, cut their annual cost dramatically, while also creating a portfolio that was simpler to manage, more transparent, and positioned them for long-term growth. And this brings us to our fourth core question in the retirement master plan. How do we transfer wealth to the next generation in a structured and tax-efficient way? This is often where the biggest mistakes and the biggest savings are made. Without proper planning, unnecessary taxes, executors' fees, and liquidity shortages can significantly reduce the legacy you leave behind. At Family Wealth Custodians, we focus on 5 key areas. First of all, we would look at reducing estate duty across life stages. One of the most effective strategies is using retirement annuity contributions. These contributions grow tax-free and at death, as long as the beneficiaries don't take a lump sum withdrawal, will be excluded from your dutiable estate. By moving money into this structure, we remove funds that would otherwise attract 20 to 25% estate duty. In their case, we also looked at strategies to move funds to their family trust, which could further reduce their estate duty. Next, we look at minimizing estate-related costs. Executors' fees can run as high as 3.5% plus VAT of your estate's gross value. To reduce this drag, we do the following. We look at investing discretionary funds into a local or offshore tax wrapper, which are exempt from executors' fees. We also use disallowed contributions strategically, further reducing the portion of assets exposed to these costs. We also help them negotiate executives' fees and strategically appoint executives, which could be a family member that would act in their children's best interests. Next, we look at ensuring estate liquidity. A common pitfall in estate planning is being asset-rich but cash-poor. If there's no liquidity in the estate, heirs might be faced to sell assets, often at the wrong time, just to pay taxes and liabilities. We build in liquidity buffers through endowments, life cover, or discretionary investments to ensure that estate taxes and debts can be settled without distressed sales. Next, we look at continuity of offshore investments. For clients with offshore portfolios, we often recommend offshore tax wrappers that paid out directly to the beneficiaries when the life assurer passes away, avoiding delays and probate. This allows funds to remain invested in the endowment, maturing seamlessly at death, so beneficiaries have immediate access to income and growth. This avoids the costly and time-consuming process of winding up offshore assets in the estate and ensures that your family continues to benefit from global diversification. By combining these strategies, we can save families millions in estate duty, executives' fees, and tax leakage, while ensuring the smooth transfer of wealth across generations. That brings us to our fifth and final core question in the retirement master plan. How do we ensure the plan remains simple, clear, and easy to manage? One of the biggest risks in retirement isn't only bad markets or high taxes, it's complexity. Over time, many clients accumulate multiple products across different platforms with layers of fees and no clear oversight. This creates confusion, duplication, and sometimes costly mistakes. At Family Wealth Custodians, we believe that the best retirement plan is one you can actually understand and manage. To achieve that, we focus on three key principles. First of all, we look at consolidation and oversight. We recommend consolidating investments onto one single, highly regulated platform. We use platforms such as Allen Gray, 91, or a couple of others. This not only reduces platform fees, but also makes it reporting simpler and more transparent, provides a single view of your wealth, and minimizes administrative burden for you and your family. Next, we look at clear advice models. Every client is unique. Some want an ongoing hands-on advisory relationship. Others prefer a fee-for-service model where they get advice at key decision points. Both approaches can work. The important thing is to ensure your advisor has a clearly defined value proposition, that you know exactly what you're paying for and exactly what you're getting in return. Simplicity by design. We design retirement strategies using straightforward frameworks, like the 3-bucket strategy, so you know where your income is coming from, how your assets are invested, and what the long-term plan looks like. No hidden jargon, no unnecessary layers of complexity, just a plan you can understand and trust. At the end of the day, wealth management should give you clarity and peace of mind and control, not overwhelm you. A retirement plan that is simple, transparent, and easy to manage is far more likely to succeed over 30 years than one that looks clever on paper but confuses everyone involved. You need a bottom-up, step-by-step, data-driven plan that reflects your unique life, your values, and the realities of our South African environment, from estate duty to living annuities to offshore diversification. That's how you push the button on retirement, not with fear, but with clarity and confidence. So let's bring it all together. At Family Wealth Custodians, we believe that a truly successful retirement plan rests on answering 5 core questions. Number 1, how do you draw income in retirement in the most cost-effective, sustainable, and tax-efficient way? How do we achieve the best possible returns without taking unnecessary risks? How can we optimize our investments while reducing costs and complexity? How do we transfer wealth to the next generation in a structured and tax-efficient manner? And finally, how do we ensure the plan remains simple, clear, and easy to manage? If you can confidently answer those 5 questions, you already solved 90% of retirement planning. That's exactly what we do for our clients every day. We build strategies that are structured, sustainable, and easy to live with, so that retirement is not just financially secure, but deeply fulfilling. Thanks for watching. My name is Hardi Swart. This is Family Wealth. Keep investing into your future.